Formality, my brother Declan said smugly, arms folded as he leaned back in the mahogany chair. Grandpa promised me everything. He told me himself, word for word. The house, the land, the stocks. All of it. Dad gave him a proud nod like it was rehearsed. You deserve it, son. He saw your potential. Unlike her. Her. That was me, Sienna Clark, standing in the back, clutching the same thrift store coat I'd worn to visit Grandpa in the nursing home every Sunday for the last 3 years. The same coat I wore when I brought him soup, combed his thinning white hair, read him his old military letters when his vision started to fade. The same coat that still smelled faintly of mothballs and lavender because he loved that scent. You will get nothing, Mom added flatly, her voice sharp as a knife against glass. You were always just extra weight, an embarrassment. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us, what would you do in this situation? Be honest. Tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. The room full of relatives didn't blink. Some looked away. Others exchanged glances of agreement. Even Aunt Lillian had the audacity to whisper, "Should have left with her mother years ago." My knees trembled, but I didn't speak. I didn't need to. I looked at the lawyer, Mr. Whitmore, a calm, older man who hadn't said a word yet. He opened the thick file on the table and removed a remote. "There's a video message Mr. Marshall Clark left us," he said, his tone oddly careful. He wanted this played before anything is decided. Declan scoffed. "We don't need—" Whitmore pressed the button. The lights dimmed, and Grandpa's face filled the screen. Wrinkled, sunken cheeks, but eyes sharp. "If you're watching this," he began, voice a little raspy but clear, "then I'm gone." The room grew still. Grandpa leaned forward slightly, his voice firm. "Give everything to the only one who ever visited me, her." My breath stopped. So did everyone else's. Grandpa wasn't done. "She sat with me through winters. She fed me with her own hands when the nurses forgot. She never asked for a penny. She never posted about it online. She didn't bring cameras or applause. She brought love. And in a world where everyone came around only when they wanted something, she came when I had nothing to give." Mom's face went ghost white. Declan shot up, fists clenched. "This is a joke. He was senile. This can't be legal." Grandpa's voice continued, unbothered. "The Clark estate, including the house, bank accounts, shares in Clark Timber and Tools, the trust, and the New Hampshire farmland, will all go to Sienna Clark. Not because she's my granddaughter, but because she is the only person I truly trusted at the moment." And tears stung my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. Not yet. Declan pounded the table. "You can't do this to me. I'm the eldest. I'm the heir. You people saw him. He wasn't all there." Mr. Whitmore sighed. He had full cognitive evaluations on file. Dated a week before this was recorded. All legal. All binding. Mom looked like she might faint. "You planned this," she hissed at me. "No," I said softly, finally finding my voice. "I earned it." And that's when the real chaos began. Declan lunged for the table and flipped over the stack of papers. "I'll contest it. I'll sue. She manipulated him. She poisoned his mind." I didn't flinch. I didn't need to scream or yell, because for the first time in 25 years I wasn't the invisible one. I was the one who mattered. And the look on their faces when the lawyer added, "Also, there's a letter for her, in Grandpa's handwriting," was the moment I felt the world shift beneath me. Mr. Whitmore handed me the sealed envelope. It was aged, edges worn, the handwriting shaky but undeniably Grandpa's. I opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a single page. "My dearest Sienna, If you're holding this, then I'm already gone. But I need you to know something they never told you. You weren't forgotten. You weren't invisible. They tried to erase your worth because they feared how much more heart you had than all of them combined. I watched you give when you had nothing. I watched them take when they had everything. You are the legacy I leave behind, my real one. They'll come after you now. Not because they love me, not because they miss me, but because they hate losing. Be strong. Use what I've left you not to hurt them, but to never need them again. Love, Grandpa. I folded it slowly, careful not to crease the signature. Everyone was still staring, some in shock, some in horror. Declan slammed his fist down again. Number, this doesn't end here. You're not taking what's mine. Mr. Whitmore looked unfazed. Legally, it's not yours. Not anymore. I'll drag her through every court in this country, Declan snapped. Dad, say something. My father stood stiffly, jaw clenched, but he didn't speak. Not at first, until his eyes turned to me, full of bitterness and something colder, resentment. You embarrassed this family once by choosing a waitress job over college, he said. Now you're stealing our name and fortune to humiliate us again. I didn't steal anything, I replied. I just showed up. Watch your tone, Mom snapped. The tension in the room thickened like fog. But I didn't shrink this time. I looked my father in the eye, and I said, Do you know what Grandpa told me the last time I visited him? He said, I see your mother in you. Not her cruelty, her courage, the same kind that made her walk away from all of you. My mother's lips parted slightly, like the mention of my real mom was a bullet. She was weak, Dad barked. She couldn't handle life, just like you. She handled you, I cut in, and that's more than most people could say. My voice didn't tremble. Not anymore. Suddenly, Whitmore cleared his throat. There's one more thing. Everyone froze. I was instructed to deliver a second video, if things got hostile. He clicked the remote again, and there was Grandpa, again, this time with a more serious look. If they try to fight this, if they raise their voices, accuse her, threaten her, then remind them this. I knew you'd react this way. That's why I moved every asset to a private holding account a month before I died. You'll find nothing under the Clark name anymore. Everything was signed over to a trust under Sienna's name. Your lawsuits will get you nowhere. You've already lost. Silence. Total silence. Declan's eyes went wild, scanning the room like he was looking for something to punch. Mom's chest rose and fell rapidly. Dad sat down like his legs gave out. And me? I smiled. I folded Grandpa's letter and tucked it into my coat. I wasn't a charity case anymore. I wasn't the family shame. I was the one they overlooked, until it was too late. You said I'd get nothing, I said quietly. But turns out I got the only thing that mattered, his respect. And now, everything else too. And as I turned to leave, their silence followed me like shadows afraid of the light. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of someone pounding on my front door. Not knocking. Pounding. I walked barefoot across the old hardwood floor of the 2-bedroom apartment I'd rented for the last 4 years. My hands were still shaking from yesterday. Part of me still didn't believe it happened. That the will was real, that Grandpa had left everything to me. I opened the door cautiously. Declan was standing there, eyes bloodshot, unshaven, breathing like he'd just run a marathon in a thunderstorm. You ruined everything, he growled. Do you have any idea what you've done? I didn't move. I think Grandpa made it pretty clear what I didn't do, take advantage of him. He shoved a crumpled piece of paper in my face. Eviction notice. Dad had to take out a second mortgage just to pay off the bank last month. You think this is just about money? You think we're going to sit back while you play Queen of the Ashes? Move back in with Dad then, I said. His jaw clenched. He's selling the house. Can't afford the taxes. All because you. Because you all left Grandpa to rot, I said, stepping forward. You didn't visit him. You didn't care. You told him he was already half dead. And now you want to cry because the man actually remembered who did care? You think that makes you better than us? No, I said. It just means I'm not a parasite. He reached like he might shove me. I didn't flinch. Not this time, because behind me, through the hallway, I saw the envelope on my kitchen table, the new deed, the bank account information, the transfer of full ownership. Everything locked, legally airtight. Touch me, I said, voice low. And I'll have you arrested before you can blink. You forgot I'm not defenseless anymore. He froze. Something in his face flickered. Fear? Or pride cracking under pressure? Then he turned and stormed off down the hallway, fists clenched, shoulders hunched. My hands were trembling when I shut the door. Not because I was scared, because I realized this was just the start. By noon, 3 news vans were parked outside my apartment building. One of them was from a local station. They'd somehow gotten wind that the Clark estate had been left to the estranged granddaughter. Mom probably leaked it to stir gossip. Or maybe Aunt Lillian. Who knew? I stayed inside, turned off the lights, curled up on the couch with a blanket and Grandpa's old journal. His handwriting was messy, but I could still read the last line he'd written before his death. I wish I could have protected you sooner, sweetheart. But at least now, they'll never control you again. My phone rang. Dad. I let it ring. Then it buzzed again. Incoming call. Clark Timber and Tools. Corporate. I blinked. Why was the company calling me? Then I remembered what Mr. Whitmore said. I now owned the company. All of it. I hesitated, then answered. Miss Clark. The woman's voice on the other end was brisk, professional. My name is Julie, executive assistant to Mr. Philip Kane, the acting CEO of Clark Timber. We received notice of transfer from the firm yesterday. Mr. Kane would like to schedule a meeting with you as majority shareholder. I was stunned. When? He's requesting this afternoon. Says it's urgent. Okay, I said. Send me the address. When I hung up, I stood there in my tiny kitchen, staring at the cracked tiles, the old coffee maker, the sticky fridge magnets from dollar stores. By sundown, I'd be sitting in the boardroom of $1 million corporation my family didn't think I was worthy of. And I wasn't going to walk in there scared. I was going to walk in and make them regret ever turning their backs on me. The elevator doors slid open with a smooth chime. I stepped into the top-floor lobby of Clark Timber and Tools headquarters, a steel and glass beast overlooking the city skyline. Cold, sleek, the kind of place where the walls whispered secrets and the boardrooms reeked of power and ego. My coat was cheap. My shoes were scuffed. But I walked like I owned the place. Because now, I did. Julie greeted me with a tight smile. Blonde, maybe in her late 40s. Sharp eyes. Right this way, Miss Clark. Her voice had the same polite tone waitresses use on rude customers. Fake sugar. The doors to the boardroom opened, and there he was, Philip Kane, CEO for 15 years, Grandpa's former right-hand man. Tall, gray suit, hair so perfectly combed it probably had its own assistant. Sienna, he said smoothly, like he was pretending we were old friends. Thank you for coming. I shook his hand. Firm grip. No emotion. He gestured to a chair at the long glass table. Shall we? I sat. Julie closed the doors behind us, leaving us alone. Philip leaned forward, folding his hands like a therapist. I'll be honest. This is unexpected. Your grandfather never mentioned naming you as successor. That's probably because he knew how people would react. He gave a faint chuckle. Fair. He slid a file toward me. Here's where we stand. Clark Timber is worth $87 million. It owns 4 mills, 2 overseas branches, and has 123 full-time employees. You now own 100% of the voting shares. I flipped the file open. It was real. Every signature, every legal stamp, it was real. Philip continued. There will be pressure, internally and externally, to sell. There are buyers circling already. If you're not planning to run the company, I'd advise you to consider a sale and walk away with a clean fortune. I looked up. Is that what you want? He blinked. I just want what's best for the company. I smiled faintly. That's funny, because what's best for the company is not ignoring the founder's last wish. His brow twitched. I pushed the file back. Here's what's going to happen. I'll be attending every board meeting from now on. You'll provide me full access to operations, reports, and employee feedback. I want to see everything, clean or dirty. Sienna. And while we're at it, I interrupted. Let's talk about the underpaid workers in the New Hampshire plant. The ones you tried to cut hours from last quarter. I know about that. Grandpa told me. He froze. I leaned in. You don't get to play me, Mr. Kane. I may look like a waitress in a borrowed coat, but I'm the one holding the deed now. So either you show me loyalty or you show me the exit, and I'll find someone else who wants the job. He stared at me. The silence stretched. Then, he nodded. Slowly. Understood. The power shift was instant, not loud, not explosive. Just real. He stood. Welcome to Clark Timber, Miss Clark. As I rode the elevator down, my heart pounded like a drum. I stared at my reflection in the mirrored walls. I didn't look like someone who belonged in boardrooms, but I looked like someone who was done begging for a seat at the table. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was my mom. I didn't pick up. I watched the call fade to voicemail as I stepped onto the sidewalk and breathed in the cold evening air. She'd call again. They all would. But now, the roles were reversed. And I wasn't done yet. Because this wasn't just about inheritance anymore. It was about redemption. And I was going to make damn sure they watched every second of it. 3 days later, they showed up. All of them. Mom, Dad, Declan, Aunt Lillian. On my front porch, faces stiff with forced smiles and fake warmth. Sweetheart, Mom said, like she hadn't spat the words, you will get nothing just days ago. We thought maybe we could talk. I opened the door just enough to look at them. Now you remember where I live? Dad stepped forward. We're still family, Sienna. Were we family when you said I was a mistake? I asked calmly. When you erased me from Grandpa's life and laughed when I walked out of that house with nothing? Declan scoffed. You think you're better than us now, just because of a few documents? No, I said. I think I'm free now. They fell silent. I reached beside the door and grabbed the envelope I'd prepared days ago. I handed it to my father. He opened it. His face paled. Inside was a letter. Typed. Legal. Official. Notice of trespassing. Do not return. All communication is to go through legal counsel. You're kicking us out of your life? Dad growled. I nodded. Just like you kicked me out of yours. Mom's lip quivered. We didn't mean it. We were just angry. And I was just forgotten, I said softly. But Grandpa remembered. And now, so will you. Declan stepped back furious. Dad turned without another word. And as they walked down my porch in silence, I didn't cry. I didn't break. Because for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I was losing anything.